This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report, a show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and with me is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Well, we're going to take the time to look back at an old Pistons rivalry and maybe look forward to a budding new one. It's a Fan Report.
So, I'm going to preface everything in this, this entire episode by saying I just got done watching The Malice at the Palace Untold on Netflix, so I'm a little bit hyped up. I felt a lot of emotions and feelings come back from watching that going to work crew team and how much disdain I had for the Indiana Pacers team, and then just watch these guys sit there and talk without any kind of rebuttal from anybody representing the Pistons outside of the director of security of the Palace.
They had like one Pistons fan. I forgot what his name was.
They had two.
They were the fro.
Yes, they had the
Dude,
one.
They had some indirect
Pistons
interviews.
Fans, two
oh no,
Pistons
they had the other
dude
guy
who was on the court who got punched by
Yeah.
Ron Artest and Jermaine O'Neal, and the guy that waves the flag. I'm pretty sure that's who it is,
or something like that. And they briefly had Ben Wallace.
Yeah, they did also have Ben. I will say that, but Ben really didn't give much talk about the brawl itself.
Organizational rep.
Yeah, he talked about the team more than anything. He didn't really talk about the brawl.
Yeah. Well, he did mention, which is something we already knew, that the reason he retaliated is because he thought it was an unnecessarily hard foul at that point.
He talked about how his push towards Artest, or his choke push of Ron Artest. So I wanted to kind of get my disclaimers out of the way. I'm a little bit hyped up. I mean, and when I say I just got done, literally 5 minutes before we hopped on to record, I was when the credits rolled. So this is raw emotion.
Yeah, I watched it last night.
And to kind of give it, just to backtrack a little bit what we're talking about, and we've mentioned it on the previous episode of the podcast, but there was Netflix recently produced or released a series of mini documentaries of, they're calling it Untold, just of untold stories or different sides of stories of sports lore. The first one happened to be the story of the Malice at the Palace, told entirely from the angle of the Indiana Pacers and primarily Jermaine O'Neal, amongst his biggest name teammates. By that I mean
he did produce it.
He did, by his teammates being Reggie Miller, Steven Jackson, and Ron Artest, now known as Meta World Peace, or I don't even know what his name is anymore.
Didn't he change his name back?
Yes, he changed it. He changed it again.
Well, he changed to Panda Love at one point.
Yeah, he's changed it after that as well. He took on his wife's name as in the hyphenated portion of his name. Like it's Meta something now. So he's changed his name again.
It's Meta Sandiford Artest.
Yes, that's what it is. I kind of first wanted to, because I had heard, and I believe actually you told me this, that they had interviewed Rasheed Wallace and Larry Brown for this interview, and they cut out the interviews for the documentary, which, why? I unless your entire goal is to tell an entirely one-sided point of view about the Malice at the Palace, there's no legitimate reason to do that.
It felt like the goal of that doc was to kind of just give the Pacers side of view and just clear their names almost.
But it didn't clear their names. Yeah. If anything, all a couple of them did was throw another one under the bus. And then ran him over with a couple of semis and the team bus.
Detroit fan bashing going on.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of Detroit fan bashing. There was...
Not that the fans they interviewed made themselves look great at all, because they didn't.
No, it didn't. Absolutely not. And don't get me wrong, the fans were every bit as much to blame in that debacle as were the Pacers players.
My favorite was the guy that ran onto the court. When he goes, I think they did a season ticket holder very wrong in that situation.
Yes,
you ran onto the court and squared up. Really?
I mean, I don't know that you could consider him squaring up. He just kind of stood. I think was
he stood there fist clenched, ready to go.
He was like a deer, but he was in a tense moment, like a deer in headlights as a pissed off Ron Artest is coming at him, and Ron Artest raises his fist first and then throws a punch. Like, what are you going to do at that point?
And I think the best part was he was already going to get his season tickets revoked that night.
Yeah, he was. He's so, you know damn well that man said, fuck it, I'm going to have some fun. Well, no, like,
what do you have to do to get your season tickets revoked, like, prior to the brawl?
Well, I mean, the director of security even said that they were having problems with him, and he was being rowdy. He was liquored up, getting wild. I mean, you do stupid shit like that, you're going to get kicked out. But...
And I didn't realize how arrogant the guy that threw the cup was. Jesus Christ.
Oh, my God. I'll get into him in a minute. I don't want to, honestly, God, I don't want to spend much time on him because he's not worth it.
Agreed.
But, I mean, I wrote down some talking points from this, and most of them are from later in the documentary. To start the documentary, it was much more of me just reminiscing and just bringing the emotions back from that time. Like, this was the last real rivalry that I can truly remember putting so much energy into with the Pistons. And that's the last real rivalry they had, in all reality.
I'll be honest. Like the first 20 minutes of that doc, like when they were just going into the background of the players and all that stuff, I like before they got into the brawl, I actually really enjoyed it. Like as a basketball junkie who just really loves that era because that's the era I grew up in.
Oh, same. Absolutely loved it.
I was eating it up.
Even to the part where they where they brought in the Pistons. How I will say this. When they were talking about the 2004 series, the previous year, before the year with the brawl, when they were talking about the series in the playoffs, the Eastern Conference Finals between the Pistons and the Pacers, did you notice one glaring omission from the footage for that series? Like one massive omission. Yep. And I'm talking one of the most electrifying plays in basketball history. The block from Tayshaun just, kind of being forgotten in the footage. It was probably the most pivotal moment in the entire series, and it just gets left out. And I immediately noticed it. I laughed, and I was just like, nice.
You can't show that series and not show that block.
No, that block right there is the symbol of that entire series. It is the picture of that series. It's honestly, you can honestly say it's the picture of that entire playoffs. That season. That championship, that picture of Tayshaun blocking Reggie Miller on the fast break was it. And you could tell Reggie in the little interview he was doing before they showed clips from that series, you could tell Reggie was kind of alluding to it a little bit, but didn't want to come right out and say it, where he goes, they were mentally tougher than we were. And all it took was one mental mistake, and that was it. That's what the margin of error was in that series. Was
very little margin of error.
And it was Reggie Miller's mental mistake of putting up a layup as opposed to just dunking the damn ball, and the Pacers probably would have won the series. But the mental error of him trying to take it easy, not realizing he's got a Taylor in Tayshaun, who's got like an 8-foot wingspan that can block something seemingly from half court.
See, if I was Reggie, I'd be like, oh, there's no way he gets here. I'm fine.
Probably not. Again, though, that's the mental mistake that cost the Indiana Pacers that series. So Reggie did allude to it a little bit. I just wish they would have put it in. But, I'm honestly, I feel bad for Jermaine O'Neal and Reggie Miller. More so Reggie Miller, because I have nothing but respect for Reggie Miller as a player, as an athlete, as a person, as a human, anything. Dude is deserving of utmost respect as just this legend of the game.
Agreed.
And he never did a damn thing wrong. He was just a respectful person, respectful player, and it was, I feel bad for the guy that didn't win a title. What?
Spike Lee would disagree.
Well, Spike Lee can kiss my ass. I feel bad for Reggie that he didn't get his title. However, I will say this. I still am going to sit here and say Indiana would not have won the title in 2005.
Yeah, that was one of the parts that irked me about the doc, is that they're trying to act like they're trying to act like because they won the first regular season meeting 10 games into the season with the Pistons that they were going to win. That's it.
Right. You're going to tell me that the team that you openly admit was mentally tougher than you and also kicked your ass in the previous year in the playoffs wasn't going to beat you again? Because I'll sit here and tell you right now they were going to. And I know I'm biased. I'm 100% biased. But to try and sit here and play it off as if Indiana was going to win the NBA title that year, excuse me, but the team who beat your ass last year in the playoffs, you got to run into them again.
And don't get me wrong, they were 100% contenders that year.
Oh, absolutely.
They very well could have won the title that year, but you can't outright go out and just be like, yeah, we won the title for that.
But the other thing was, and why, honestly, I probably kind of believe they wouldn't even have made the Eastern Conference Finals is because mentally they weren't there. Jermaine O'Neal and Ron Artest had a lot of issues between them. The chemistry was broken. They did not like each other at that point. They went at it a lot. And Jermaine O'Neal in interviews even said, I'm not here to talk about Ron. I'm not here to talk about him. I'm here to talk about the Pacers and the basketball games that go on. We aren't talking about Ron anymore. And he's taking time off from the team to go and do award shows and
record his rap album.
Yeah, like a team with that dynamic does not win titles. And I understand they were a contender because of who they had and it worked. But at the same time, when it came down to the hardest, most difficult mental part of the season in the playoffs up against a rival, they lose 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, because mentally they weren't there. I would argue that their best shot was the previous year because mentally they were there. They were the second most mentally sound team and tough team and solid team in the league. It just so happened that the Pistons were the number 1 most mentally tough team in the league. They weren't getting past Detroit that year. They weren't. And honestly, I'd be surprised if they even made it that far with the dynamic that they had. I know they were a better team on paper. I know even at times on the court they were better. But unless you had those guys at their absolute best, gelling in a way that they had not done all year, you weren't getting it.
I mean, that was here. The Pistons were about one Rashid missed assignment away from taking down one of the greatest teams of all time in that Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, Spurs.
Let me ask you this.
Spurs team.
If Rashid doesn't leave Big Shot Bob open, or do we talk in 2021, do we talk about that San Antonio Spurs team as a dynasty?
I think so, because they still went on to win after that.
How many? 2? 1 with Kawhi? So not even really the same team?
Did they win with Kawhi?
Yes. So not even really the same team? That's a different team at that point.
And they'd won prior to that as well.
They won in...
I know they won in what?
97, didn't they? 98?
I was going to say 99. I think it was
Maybe
Tim
99.
Duncan, David
it was
Robinson.
The late 90s, yeah. So it was Tim Duncan's rookie years when they won it. But that's a different team also.
Yeah.
The San Antonio Spurs dynasty that people refer to is the dynasty that was Manu Ginobili, Bruce Bowen, Tony Parker, and Tim Duncan. That's that San Antonio Spurs dynasty everybody refers to.
They won in 99-03. Then they had the 05-06 repeat, and then 2014.
So they won 1 before 05.
2, 99 and 03.
I don't consider the 99 team the same team. Having a guy by the name of the Admiral on the roster makes a big difference.
Well, you do have 2 other titles with that team.
You do.
And that team plus Kawhi in 2014.
I think the fact that they won in 05 helps their dynasty resume quite a bit.
It does. It's 4 championships in 5 years.
Yes.
Or, sorry, 3 championships in 4 years. Sorry.
Yes. Again, though, I don't think Indiana, the Pacers, that 05 season were mentally tough enough and were gelling enough as a team to make it. I don't think they had the chemistry to make it happen. And I have a ton of respect for Jermaine O'Neal. I have respect, but also a little bit of disdain and annoyance with Jermaine O'Neal. I'm a little annoyed at the way he did the doc. I won't lie. I'm also kind of happy he did it because I feel like it's just sparked something in me as a Pistons fan. I felt a feeling towards the Pistons that I haven't felt in a long damn time. I'll be honest with you. I have become so complacent with this team over the last decade that I forgot what it was like to feel something. And don't get me wrong, I'm still a huge Pistons fan. I still go to games. I still wear the shirts proudly, almost on a weekly basis. Like, I love this basketball team. But I haven't felt something like that in a long time. And before I get into some of the talking points that I wrote down from towards the end of the documentary, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, because I know I'm taking up the whole time.
I should sit you down to watch the 03-04 championship DVD.
I might cry.
You may. I'll bring it over next time I'm over.
I'm down. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts because I know I've been talking for the whole 15 minutes here. So let's hear it.
Just in general, overall on the doc. Again, like I said, I actually really enjoyed the last 20 minutes, which a lot of people I'd heard found super boring. But again, being a basketball junkie and that being kind of my favorite era. Yeah, first 20 minutes. That being kind of my favorite era because that's the era I grew up on. I really enjoyed seeing the Jermaine O'Neal come up and seeing that team come together and seeing some old highlights. But in terms of the way that the Malice at the Palace itself was handled, I did feel like there was a very clear agenda in mind with the documentary, and that was to absolve the names of the players involved.
I mean, they brought up the federal court cases that were absolutely meaningless in the grand scheme of things. Like, there was no reason to even go to those, talk about those court cases. They were so minuscule in the whole thing.
Yeah. And honestly, I was really, what I was hoping for with this documentary was just not like an agenda-driven thing. I just wanted a deep dive into, all right, what's the mentality of the Pistons players when this was going down? What was the mentality of the Pacers players when this was going down? Where were both sides coming from? What was the fallout? How do they feel about it now? Like, all that stuff. Like, I was hoping just get a deep dive on the psyche of both teams at that point in time. And so I was a little bit disappointed in the fact that it did feel so agenda driven. And I also did feel like they really did, not defending the fans who were part of that brawl, but they were kind of slighting the city of Detroit in general. Like
100%.
They were calling out the fact that why wasn't there enough security in the arena? Like every arena had the same amount of security at that time. This was security in arenas changed after that brawl.
Oh yeah, 100% changed after that. The league had a monumentous shift in how they were portrayed, how games were secured, how the players dressed on the sidelines. Like, that moment changed the NBA forever.
Oh, they asked David Stern, was it unanimous to suspend Ron Test for a season? Yeah, 1-0.
Yeah, 1-0. I started dying laughing at that. And it's true, though. I mean, when it happens on the court, the commissioner's the judge, jury, and executioner. It just is what it is. But I agree with you, though. I did not like how the fans were thrown entirely under the bus. Mm-hmm. If Ron Artest wasn't so unhinged and a loose cannon and straight up irresponsible, brawl never would have happened. That fan would have been kicked out, probably arrested, and that's it.
I still firmly believe if Ron Artest hadn't been laying on the scores table, nothing would have happened.
I'm not going to lie to you. I can feel for and sympathize with Ron Artest and the demons that he was battling with the anxiety and depression. I sympathize with that. I understand he's got coping mechanisms, but then he tried to say that mental health
is a real thing. Like,
yes, absolutely.
It's an important thing to take care of.
Just listening to Ron Artest in this documentary in modern day, you could tell he's still dealing with stuff. Like, he's still not 100% up there. But for him to try to pull a cop-out excuse that he laid on the scorer's table because he was using a therapeutic mechanism to get him to calm down, did you not see the smug-ass look on his face and him spread his legs showing the nutsack to the world? Like, come on, man. You were egging shit on, asking Ben Wallace to get heated and start throwing shit at you and fans to throw shit at you. It was disrespectful. And do I say he deserved the cup in the face? Yeah, a little bit. Do I think it should have happened? No. But he deserved he deserved to get a swift kick in the ass for sure, and I wish his own teammates would have done it.
What he deserved is one of those Ben Wallace armbands hitting him in the chest while he was in the scorer's table. That's
sure, fine. That's wonderful. I don't care. He deserved to get a swift kick in the ass from his own teammates in all reality, because he costed them a lot. But to blame the fans entirely, I mean, this dude stormed the crowd, and I'm going to say one thing. I got some respect. I actually gained respect for Steven Jackson from this documentary. I hated Steven Jackson for the longest time. I gained respect for him from this documentary. Why? Not because, he was defending his teammates or whatever, but because the dude straight up told it how it is. He keeps it real. Steven Jackson is the definition of I keep it real.
Yeah.
And he tells it how it is. And I loved it how he portrayed himself in the documentary. It was just a little bit refreshing, that's all. Because you're sitting there with Ron Artest, who's throwing cop-out story after cop-out story, and then he finally ends up owning up to some stuff later on. But to hear Steven Jackson just tell it how it is and say what's up, I mean, I had some respect for that.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for Jermaine O'Neal because he was the leader of that team, and it kind of did fall on him, and he was being blamed for a lot of it. I'll say this, though. My favorite part in the entire documentary, outside of seeing the clips of the Pistons winning the title and beating the Pacers, but my favorite part was when it was the look on Jermaine O'Neal's face when they were talking about when they were back in the locker room after the brawl, and Ron Artest turns to Steven Jackson and goes, "You think we gonna get in trouble?" And the look on Jermaine O'Neal's face was just pure, "You fucking shitting me?" I started dying laughing just seeing the look on Jermaine O'Neal's face when he was recounting that moment. I bust out laughing so hard. It was just you shitting me?
That's how you know, like, Artest was not mentally all there at that point in time. Like, you really think you're not?
No, you could see it you could tell in his face the dude was not all there. Yeah. Like, even in the moment, watching the videos, like, he was not there. He had it was a situation where all he saw was red.
Yep, exactly.
He had no self-control anymore. It was gone. All he saw was violence. And at that point, like that's all he wanted was to go after somebody. He didn't care who. It was just going to be whoever was in front of him. And I mean, it was proven even more when the fan went down on the court, who, by the way, never should have been there. And Ron Artest squared up and punched him. Like, the fan never should have been there. But did Ron Artest have to, throw a haymaker at him? No. I mean, yes, I get it. He was a little bit threatened by the fact the fan had clenched fists down at his sides, but they weren't up, like, put him up. He wasn't looking like Muhammad Ali doing the little butterfly dance.
I mean, there was very little that fan can do to look like Muhammad Ali.
Well, true. But that Jermaine O'Neal coming out of nowhere just with a running haymaker that kind of connects on the fan's face. Like, he's lucky that didn't hit him in the.
Reggie Miller was like, right. He would have been dead.
Yeah, he would have been. He would have been at the very least seriously injured. Jermaine O'Neal probably would have been in jail.
But yeah, and then kind of like the way they ended it, like Jermaine O'Neal talked about how he'll never be able to move on from it while the building is still there, kind of thing. Like how there's a piece of him always in that building, in the palace, and then they close the palace being demolished. Like, it felt like they were demolishing a house of horrors, like the way they were presenting it.
Yeah, whatever. The palace is a legendary arena that had 3 titles in it, and will go down in history as one of the greatest home advantages in sports history. Like, it broke records in that building. Records are broken in that building, and it will be near and dear to Pistons fans forever that grew up in that era or were a part of that era, whether it be the Bad Boys or the Going to Work crew. Like that building. And I have been to that building and sat in several different locations in that building several times, like more times than I can count or even remember. And every time I walked through the doors, it felt special. Yeah. It felt like a part of something. Even in the years where, we were watching Greg Monroe and Andre Drummond plot up and down the court. Like, it felt special still. Not because of the guys that you were going to watch that night, but because of the moments that were had in that building and you got to be a part of in years past. So
you don't feel that in LCA, at least not yet.
No. Hopefully you will soon. But and to say that it was some house of horrors, well, you know what? It probably was a house of horrors for 29 other NBA teams.
Yeah.
Because nobody liked to come and play there. Nobody. If you weren't wearing the red, white, and blue with the block pistons on your jerseys, you didn't like playing there. Yeah. Because it was loud. I like the little shout out to Mason in the younger years, by the way, the most electrifying announcer. And then and then Steven Jackson, when they did the Ben Wallace intro, I got hype. I got real hype. Oh, we gonna kick some ass tonight. That's the effect that the energy in that arena had. Because it was, and especially during that time period, it seemed like almost every game that was played there, you were witnessing something special. Because it was, the energy that was there was unlike any other building.
And especially with that night, that comes with the rivalry game. Like, you combine rivalry with the energy that already was in the Palace when that Pistons team was there. Yeah, it's going to be insane. And I almost feel like that's what LCA needs right now, is a legitimate rivalry. Rivalry.
If you're Jermaine O'Neal, Reggie Miller, and Steven Jackson, how much blame do you put on Jamal Tinsley?
0.
He's the one who told Ron Artest to go foul.
Oh yeah,
you get your foul now.
Yeah.
Steven Jackson even said that was the dumbest shit you could ever say to him.
Yeah, Toronto.
Like that ignited it all. That put the energy in Ron Artest to go up and give Ben a hard foul, and then Ben turned around and shoved him 50 feet down the floor, and the rest is history. I mean, I kind of feel, and if I were Jermaine O'Neal, personally speaking, and if I were Jermaine O'Neal, and frankly, if I were Jermaine O'Neal, I'd be trying to get into like some type of basketball analysis or something, because he's very well spoken.
Agreed.
He composes himself well. I thought he actually was fantastic in it. I loved listening to the things he had to say, because I liked Jermaine O'Neal as a player when I was younger.
Yeah.
I liked watching him play. I liked the energy he brought. I hated him when he played the Pistons, but I liked the way he played, and I liked who he was. So if I were him, I'd be trying to look for a job in basketball today. But anyways, that's beside the point. If I were Jermaine O'Neal, I would have...
Curious, what is he doing now?
Eternal loathing, and eternal hatred for Ron Artest.
Well, it's kind of sounded like it, to be honest with you.
And he probably does. And he kind of admitted
Especially considering Ron Artest went on to win a title, and he did.
I felt real bad for Jermaine O'Neal and Reggie Miller when they started showing Ron Artest winning with the Lakers. Like, the fact that Ron Artest then went and asked for a trade the following offseason saying, I want out, like, I need a new beginning, like, and the players themselves said it best. That's coward type shit. Like, that's coward moves.
Yeah.
He didn't own up to anything. He didn't hold himself accountable. He didn't stand he didn't look his teammates in the face the next year and say, you know what, guys, I fucked up last year, but this year we're going to go get it. Let's do it for Reggie. He didn't own it. And based on listening to what he had to say in this documentary, I still don't think he owned it. He owned up to the fact that he was a coward by leaving the team and abandoning them, and he owned up to that after he won the title in the post-game interviews with the Lakers. He owned up to that. He said he was a coward and ran away. But he didn't. I still don't feel like he owned up to his fault in all of this.
Yeah.
Do I solely place the blame on him? No, there were 3 other guys that got suspended on that team. But he deserves a lot of the blame. And I'd argue he deserves as much, if not more, blame than the fan that threw the cup. Because fans do stupid shit at arenas all the time. They're rowdy, they're loud, they're drunk, they're idiots. A fan is an idiot.
That's my other hot take from this. That's even though Pistons fans were fired up for a rivalry game, I do feel like in any arena in the NBA, if a player is laying on the scorer's table, and if a player ever ends up going into the stands, it's going to get like that.
Yes,
there are going to be there's going to be shit thrown like crazy. There will be chairs thrown.
Look at it this way:
fans are going to riot anytime a player comes into the stands.
Look at it this way. And this is another reason why I do blame Ron Artest more than anybody else in this, is because look at today's games. Look at today's day and age. And a perfect example is Russell Westbrook, another guy who was unhinged, who's heated, constantly playing with extreme energy all the time. There was a game this past year where when he was ejected, a fan threw a bucket of popcorn on him. He got pissed and started yelling at the fan, but did he charge into the stands and start throwing punches and tackling people? No. So the fact that Ron Artest tries to cop out and blame the Detroit fans and say he tries to clean his hands of all of this, get the hell out of here with that. And then for them to say that they didn't deserve the suspensions they got, oh, hell yeah, you did. Every last one of you deserved all those suspensions. Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, Ron Artest, you all deserved it. Ron Artest is lucky he still had a job. Yeah. He still got to play in the league. Steven Jackson, he deserved the 25 games. Or whatever he got, 30 games. He went into the crowd and started throwing punches too, and I know he was defending his teammate. But you know what? He probably should have, allowed his head to take control and not his heart or something, because he screwed up a lot of shit for himself and for his team as well. And he also won a title with the Spurs later on. And then Jermaine O'Neal, he deserved the 25, maybe 20 at if we're being nice. Because he threw a running haymaker on a fan.
I do think the major part of his suspension was the running punch at that.
Yeah,
even though he claims he was defending Artest, but
I get that you're defending your teammate, but at some point you got to understand that by being as high of a profile as an NBA athlete, as a professional athlete, You are held to a certain standard that fans are not. And I get that the fans were way out of line. Way out of line. But you got to understand that you have a hell of a lot more to lose than these fans do. And you got to put yourself in the best situation to get the hell out. Run off the floor, go into the locker room. When you're told to go into the locker room, you go. You don't start throwing haymakers at fans. You know, running ninja kung fu punches. A falcon punch is the closest thing I can compare it to. Like, you don't do that. You go, you grab your teammate and pull them away. You don't throw punches at a fan. You got to be smart. And I understand that energy was high, but you know what? That's no excuse. I understand that tempers were flaring, but again, that's no excuse. That's not an excuse for a dude in a bar. So why is it an excuse for you on a basketball court? It's not. So they deserve their suspensions. I get they were defending themselves. That there should have been no criminal penalties thrown their way because they were defending themselves. If anyone on that team could be criminally charged, it's Ron Artest. But the rest of them didn't deserve any kind of criminal punishment, but they did deserve to be suspended. They went into the crowd and attacked fans, even if they were just defending themselves or defending their teammates. You got to be smarter than that as a professional athlete. And as for the fans, I hope they're banned for life.
Pretty sure some of them did.
I can guarantee you they did. I know the one that ran onto the floor did, and I know the dude who threw the beer did. Hell, he was charged with a felony.
You know what? I've thought about that, though. Like, say, ban him from the Palace for life. Does that extend to LCA? Different venue.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure he is banned from all sporting events that have anything to do with the Pistons forever.
But he can walk into LCA for a Red Wings game.
Probably not. I'm sure that's grandfathered in as well.
But yeah, it does seem like this last week there's been a lot of Detroit.
Before we get into that, I did want to briefly mention the dude who threw the cup and just kind of call his ass out for a second. And his
I thought
arrogance.
You didn't want to talk about him.
I briefly. I said I don't want to spend too much time on him, but briefly. But the arrogance that man had in saying that when he was asked in an interview, how did you feel when Ron Artest passed by you and started attacking the guy next to you? And he said he felt relief and wished he had thrown a leg out sooner. Like, come on. And
like,
you know what? I can't
believe if I didn't hear the interview before.
I've heard that interview before. I know I have. Because I've seen the dude's face several times. I've seen him in interviews.
That I've seen, but I've
seen him in interviews. I've seen the dude's face several times. But I'm glad that this guy got charged criminally. He should have been. And I hope he never steps foot in an arena around the world ever again.
Agreed. Because if that interview is any indication, man is clearly unhinged.
Dude's got some problems.
But
so, we can go ahead and move on to the next stuff.
Yeah, we already killed the beautiful segue I set up earlier.
Had to. I still, a lot of emotion, a lot of energy here.
But yeah, like I was saying though, it does feel like this past week there's been a lot of Detroit bashing going on from this doc to the current events in the NBA with Jalen Green. Jalen Green seems to have not been able to stop talking about Detroit since he got drafted.
He's butthurt.
Kind of weird. He's very butthurt. But now, most recently, he was giving an interview with Yahoo Sports, and he said, "I wanted to be the number one pick, but as for the location, I didn't want to be in Detroit. I felt a lot more comfortable in Houston. It felt like a real homey environment. With Detroit, it felt like I was just going back to the G League bubble. I just got out of the bubble. That's pretty much what it was. In the G League bubble, I didn't have anything to do but just stay in the gym. I didn't have any time to get away from myself. The only time I had to get away from myself was in my apartment. That's what it felt like in Detroit. I wouldn't be stepping outside in Detroit. There are not many things you can do in Detroit like that. You're going to stay in the gym, then go back to your apartment." And then, like, even before that, like leading up to the game against the Pistons in the Summer League, he was trolling Pistons fans on Instagram Live. And even just a couple days ago on his Twitter, he liked a picture of Deion Sanders talking about like Deion. Let me pull it up real quick. But talking about Deion Sanders when the quote he had when he almost got drafted by Detroit Lions. Deion had said, "I was kind of scared. I thought Detroit was going to take me. I would have asked for so much money they had to put me on layaway." So Jalen Green, like that on his Twitter, and
I mean, he's clearly got a personal vendetta against the city of Detroit now because we brought him in for a workout and didn't take him. He clearly didn't see much of the city while he was here because there is actually a lot to do here. But anyways.
I work in Detroit. There is a ton to do in Detroit.
Yeah. But anyways, the whole Detroit bashing that's been going on, especially because the documentary is a perfect reason why I really think there needs to be like a 2-part 30 for 30 on the 04 Pistons with the Palace Brawl in it and that 04-05 Pacers team as well. Just kind of like a combined 2-part 30 for 30 that the middle part is the Brawl and then it branches off to talk about where each team went from there. Like, I think it needs to happen, and I would watch the shit out of it. But anyways, I'm going to take obviously hearing the Jalen Green comments upsets me as a Detroiter a little bit. Like, it kind of builds some heat in there. Like, it makes me not like him at all. Because obviously, and I'm not one that likes the whole Detroit versus everybody mentality. I'm not all about that. Like, I get it. I get why it's a mantra here. I get why we throw that up all the time, but I personally just don't like it. Like I don't rep it that much. But it's just another one of those things to add to it, where another person coming after Detroit saying something. And
I like the mantra because it fits the city. Like the whole city has that underdog mentality, and that mantra kind of embodies the underdog mentality of the city. So I just think it's a little bit of a cop out. Like it doesn't allow it, like it doesn't leave room for you to hold yourself accountable. It blames everybody else. I don't view it so much as that, as more so like acknowledging that no one really likes Detroit for some reason. And
I wouldn't say for some reason. I would say we're out with the chip on our shoulder
every time we do something.
I'll be honest with you. I would say the city's given probably 25 years of a good reason for people to not like it here. And I'm not talking the recent 5-10 years or whatever. I'm talking before that. Like, this city's gone through some real dark times. Real dark times. And there wasn't a whole lot of good down there. There wasn't. And we were lucky to have be able to take solace in our sports teams. And the happiness and the excitement that they brought to the city, because for a while, that was all we had. So, I disagree with the sentiment that, like, for no reason people didn't like it here. Well, I think they had a pretty decent reason.
I wasn't saying didn't like it here. I was saying like nationwide like Detroit. Yeah, people didn't like Detroit. They've never been to Detroit.
I think the city's given plenty of reasons why not to like them. Plenty of reasons. Not sports and not. I think there's a lot of people in the world that hate the Pistons because of the Palace Brawl, and the Pistons fans because of the Palace Brawl. And you know what? Fine. That's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But you know what? You should probably hate the Pacers for that too.
Yeah.
Takes two to tango, my friend. But either way, like when the Lions lose because of a bad call, or the Pistons lose because of a bad call, or the Wings lose because it's a cop out to just use the Detroit versus everybody. Well, I mean, there's a lot of explanations why the Lions lost to the Cowboys in 2014 or whatever it was. A lot of reasons, and a lot more than just a bad call.
Oh, I never tie it to that. Like in my head at least, I don't tie that motto to.
But the average fan does, like, and the majority of fans do.
I just always tie it to playing with a chip on your shoulder all the time, and
that's fine. And that's the Detroit versus everybody mentality I can get on board with. But when you start giving it as a cop out reasons why your team lost a game because the refs don't like you,
hey, that's different.
That's bullshit, man. I don't buy into that. Your team just got to be better. There's several teams that have had a bad call. I mean, hell, you can argue in that series against the Pacers in 2004 when the Pistons won the title that the flagrant foul on Ron Artest. Some people didn't like that call when he elbowed Rip. Were we saying Detroit versus everybody at that point? No.
I mean, that was a flagrant.
I agree with you, but there's a lot of people in Indiana who don't.
Indiana versus everybody.
It just doesn't have the same ring to it.
Nope.
Don't get me wrong. The blue chip mentality, playing with the chip on your shoulder, with that mentality, I can get on board with the Detroit versus everybody thing, but I don't like using it as an excuse.
Yeah, no, that I'll agree with.
But I feel like in recent years, that's what it's been turned into. That people just say this as, they say it as an excuse. People are allowed to not like it here. It's okay. More of this wonderful city for us. But anyways, I'm going to take a different angle on the Jalen Green comments.
I want to say, we went off on a tangent there.
I know, but I'm going to take a different angle on Jalen Green comments, and this may surprise you. I loved it.
Interesting.
I loved it. Why? Because I hope Jalen Green has an absolutely stupendous career. I hope he is so good that he's able to carry the Houston Rockets to an NBA Finals, where he's then going to meet Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons in said NBA Finals, and we are going to smack that ass all up and down the floor and ignite ourselves a new rivalry. Because there is no time more exciting than when our teams in this town have real rivalries with opposing teams and players. And I'm talking real rivalries where when they come to town, the house is packed, the streets are packed, you got trash talk all over the internet, back and forth, on TV, on the floor, in the stands, real rivalries. So for him to throw the first punch, that's bulletin board material for me.
Yeah, that's what I 100% agree. I like adding fuel to the fire. I want that rivalry. But I'm also gonna say that the amount that he's talked about Detroit actually makes me even happier that we took Cade Cunningham.
That's fine. Like that's you can take it that
he's
angle.
Like, he's
I'm
like
happy
so
because
preoccupied with shit talking. He barely even talks about his own team. He's talking about Detroit more than he's talking about the Rockets.
There ain't much to talk about there. Let's be real.
You're not wrong.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The Pistons haven't exactly looked great in summer league. Luka Garza's looked, kind of nice, but the team itself hasn't looked great in summer league, and that's beside the point. It's summer league. I don't give a damn. But I honestly really, really, really want the Pistons and Cade Cunningham in particular to take it to heart. I want them to have that hanging up in those comments, printed out and hanging up in their locker room, hanging up in their locker, so that they can see it every time they go out on that floor. Prove why Detroit's better. And then when we do meet the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals, make it personal. Push them up and push them down, bite them in the knees, all up and down the floor. Kick their ass. Prove that you're mentally better than them. Physically better than them.
It was funny. I saw this Twitter post because Detroit was trending locally on Twitter yesterday after the Jalen Green comments, and one of the trending tweets, it was from an account called Trademark Mark Taz, said top 5 most hated in Detroit: 1 Jalen Green, 2 Aaron Rodgers, 3 Matt Patricia, 4 Jim Joyce, 5 Blake Griffin.
That is somebody who is clearly under the age of 21.
I mean, he did.
Jim Joyce aspect is a little bit older, but regardless, that's someone who's probably very young. But in today's day and age, yeah, I'd probably agree with at least some of that. I guess I'm just
fake sham account tweeted, just Jalen got crossed up so bad by Cade that he went into the Yahoo exclusive.
That was a good crossover, though. But I guess I'm just one of those people that I long for the days of sports, not even just the NBA, but the days of sports where we had real rivalries, where teams and players actually strongly disliked each other. And I know Jermaine O'Neal even talked about in the documentary that, what people didn't know is half those guys over there, those are our friends. We ain't actually going to do anything, but they don't know that. But either way,
Reggie was saying when you see that shoving, it's mostly theater.
Yeah, it is, and it's just the heat of the moment. Nothing's actually going to come of it. Yeah. But I do miss the days where players actually did dislike each other and teams actually disliked each other. I miss the rivalries. I miss the energy that comes with a rivalry. So for us to see the potential for the beginning of a glimpse of a new rivalry here in this city, I'm all over that. I hope it happens.
I kind of want to go to the first time Houston's in town against the Pistons.
I hope Cade smacks that ass all up and down the floor.
I want to beat LCA for that.
Absolutely. And
I wonder how expensive tickets will be, though.
Probably a lot. Either way, though, I want the rivalry to be real. I want it to be a thing. I hope Jalen Green doesn't back down from it because I want him to bring it every single time he's got Detroit's name in his mouth. Every single time. Because I know damn well this city's gonna push right back, and I'll be straight up with you. If Cade's not willing to give that same energy back and push right back and bring it 100% every time he looks across the floor and sees Jalen Green, then he doesn't belong here.
Well, I want Cade to be giving that same energy back on the court. I don't want him to stoop to the trash talking level, though. I like that he's kind of held himself above
the main
that.
guy is never supposed to be the trash talker.
So I'm saying I like that he's held himself above that and hasn't responded.
You need someone else to be the trash talker. Like the Pistons, the going to work crew had Rasheed. We need someone like that to be that voice.
Everyone's calling for Josh Jackson because he's a Detroit native.
Perfect. I love it. Let's do it. Let him be the mouth on the team. Like, I love it.
I can't wait to see Josh Jackson with the team now.
I think he fits real well.
Yeah.
I think he fits excellently. I think this is the first time we're in his short tenure here where I can say he's got a legitimate role that makes a lot of sense with this team.
Exactly.
Have you heard anything about Diallo?
Well, we have filled all 15 roster spots, and Diallo is still not signed. So I'm not saying that we're out on him. I do fully believe that, like, Troy has no problem cutting, like, Jao Okafor if he ends up being able to get Diallo a contract. I mean, Troy has shown that he's no stranger to, or not opposed to, taking on some dead money. And I don't think Jao Okafor is going to be that much dead money if you cut him. But
well, didn't he sign on like a vet min last year anyways?
I can't remember what his contract was, to be honest.
Me neither. Either way, though.
So I'm hoping we're able to bring Diallo back, but
Same.
yeah, we do have 15.
I think the fact that the Pistons are willing to give Luka Garza a 2-way contract actually lends a little bit more possibility to that, because now it does make Jao Okafor more expendable. And if they do end up cutting him, it is because Diallo is coming back, which makes me happy. Because the fact that they're able to believe in Luka Garza to be a backup center gives me some hope here. But
yeah, they signed Pickett to Exhibit 10, sorry. But yeah, I'm actually really happy that we signed Garza to a 2-way. Because
I am too. Dude's played real well.
there's Pistons fans that are calling for Garza to be our starting center, and I'm like, come
I disagree with that.
Stop overreacting to summer league. Relax.
Yes, don't get me wrong. Again, anybody who puts weight in summer league is a fool. They're an idiot. They're the type of dude that gets all excited because a girl talks to him in the bar, but then gets actually upset when she rejects them.
Like I said, in past years, I would watch summer league purely to see what a player has been working on. This year, it was purely to watch Cade Cunningham for the first 3 games. I didn't even watch games 4 and 5.
There was no need to. I don't know. But the thing I like about Luka Garza is he's able to bring some scoring and shooting off the bench. Like, he's literally, and I've heard this name come up more and more, and I know I've mentioned it, compared him to it, but the name I've heard him compared to a lot lately in terms of the player that he's become is an Enes Kanter type. And I'll be honest with you, having an Enes Kanter type come off the bench, yeah, he's a black hole defensively, but offensively, he could provide some value there. And I hope Garza can fill into that role. But yeah, I do hope the Pistons are able to get some rivalry going with the Rockets because of Jalen Green. I would love it.
Oh yeah, I do think that Houston team's going to be fun to watch. Though it's all athletic scorers. That's like their whole team.
They were fun to watch at the end of last year when they had Kenyon Martin Jr. and Christian Wood. Like that team was entertaining.
Yeah, then you add Kevin Porter Jr.
Jr.
You add both of them. Then you add Jalen Green to the mix. Like, again, it's just a bunch of athletic scorers. And even Şengün's looked real. Like, again, it's summer league, but he showed some stuff I didn't know he had going into the draft. So
agreed. So before we close things off here, I did want to. I feel like we at least have to mention it. There is an end of an era in this city, and it is an era that at least you and I only know as fans of this team. But we will no longer have the longest tenured Lion in uniform this year. Don Muehlbach recently today,
within 3-4 hours ago.
I don't even think it was that long ago. I think it was like an hour ago. Was cut from the Lions.
Yep.
The long-time long-snapper. I feel like he's been with the team for 20 years. He was cut.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that.
I was too, because dude's solid as hell. And I'm a little bit sad. I'm not going to lie. I swear, if the long snapper that goes in this year that takes his place messes up a snap, I'm going to be pissed. I'm going to be pissed. Because Don Muehlbach was always solid and always good.
But I feel like it's also a very easily replaceable position. So, I'm not not
I disagree 100%. There's a reason he was with the roster that long.
Yeah.
That is not an easily replaceable position.
He was on the roster that long because he's the best long snapper, at least in our lifetime, which he's been here for most of our lifetime.
Any team will tell you long snapper is one of the hardest positions to replace because most guys can't do it.
I know, but didn't we draft a long snapper like 2 years ago?
Yeah, and then we cut him because Don Muehlbach was better.
I still can't believe we did that.
I know. Well, that sums up the Quinn Trisha era perfectly. But I'm telling you, long snapper is a tough position to replace. There's a reason he was here that long. Teams, when they get a good long snapper, they hold on to him. They don't let him go.
It sounds like we have somebody.
I sure hope so, and I hope they're freaking right about the guy. Because if not, oh boy, not only are we going to have kicking problems, we're going to have long snapping problems.
We got. And a lot
I will pull my hair out this year.
We're going to have a lot of problems.
Team don't look good. Real quick before we close out again. I know I'm just continuing to
real quick again before we close out. It's just that old Return of the King ending.
Yes.
It's over. Oh wait, no. It's still going. It's over now. No.
Are you at all worried with the sack that Penei Sewell gave up?
Just like Summer League, you're going to be very hard pressed to get me worried about anything that happens in preseason unless it's an injury. The only thing that I take away from preseason is if I see any patterns in offensive schemes, if I see any patterns in defensive schemes. Other than that, like, players got to shake the rust off. I'm not panicking about anything.
Fair. I'm going to say I'm not worried for an entirely different reason because the sack wasn't his fault.
Ooh.
If you watch the play over and over again, like I did, because it was on a loop on a Twitter video I was watching, sack never would have happened if Big Papa V didn't get blown up at the line. Sewell did not a good job, but enough of a job to seal his man to the outside to allow Jared Goff to step up in the pocket. Well, because Vaitai got beat, and I mean beat bad, off the line, Jared Goff couldn't step up in the pocket. So Sewell gave up the sack. I'd probably put more of that sack on Vaitai than I would Sewell. So that's why I'm not worried about it. Now, next question. We did push a little bit of Lions into this today. Kind of surprising. Does the way that Dan Campbell managed the clock at the end of the game worry you?
No, I'm fully on the boat that he did that on purpose.
Okay, that's the boat I'm on, and I don't know if I'm just putting on my Honolulu blue sunglasses for that, but I agree with you. Yeah. I think it was he just wanted to get a look at his personnel a little bit more.
Well, I got one for you. Does the way that the Lions offense, not the way it looked, but in terms of the play call and the scheme that was tried out there, how do you feel about that going into the season? It was a lot of dink and dunks with Jared Goff, which is what I expect. It's Jared Goff's game. He's very much a dink and dunk passer.
I mean, I was going to say, dude's going to be Captain Checkdown this year.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't really bother me because, frankly, I do think they've got to mix some of that into their offense and a lot of it into their offense because they don't have downfield threats.
Yep.
And Jared Goff doesn't have a ton to throw to. So, and also, you got to remember that their play calling was probably pretty damn limited because they didn't have guys like TJ Hawkinson or DeAndre Swift in the personnel to run plays through. Like they didn't have those guys there. So for me to sit here and tell you that was the offense that we're going to see this year, I think that's just straight up not true.
I mean, I do think it's that in terms of schematically, I do think you're going to see it's going to be very different than what you saw in the Stafford era. It is going to be a lot.
It is going to be different than what you saw in the Stafford era, yes. But did we see what the offense? I don't think it'd
be looking downfield nearly as much.
No, but Jared Goff just doesn't have as strong of an arm as Stafford.
Yeah.
But did we see what the offense is going to look like this year in the first preseason game? No, absolutely not. Because again, you didn't have two of your top offensive weapons, so you don't have the plays to run through. Like you shrink the playbook a lot when you don't have two of your best weapons. And you already have some limitations with the quarterback there and with the fact that you're introducing a rookie right tackle, or I don't even know who that running back was, but I liked the way he played a little bit. Like you're introducing guys into this offense that have never seen this team before. Not in game action.
The running back you're referring to literally introduced himself to his teammates in the huddle.
I know. So, like, I'm not worried about it because I don't think that's what this offense is entirely going to look like. Yes, there will be a lot of checkdowns this year. I think TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams will be big beneficiaries of that. But there's going to be more to it than what we saw in that game.
Mm-hmm. Okay, final question.
All right.
Does Miggy hit homer number 500? 500 or 5,000?
500.
Yeah, that's how you know how much I watch baseball.
5,000?
That's how you know.
Let's just say there's not even a player with 5,000 hits.
No, Barry Bonds has a record of what, like 720 something, right?
It's like 770, 780 something.
Anyway, does Miggy hit the homer before we record next? Yes or no?
You know, I'll be honest with you. That's how 762. That's how you know people don't legitimize Barry Bonds as the home run king, because everybody can tell you how many home runs Hank Aaron hit. As fans of the game, like everybody can tell you how many it was.
Yeah.
People will sit here and not be able to tell you. Hank Aaron hit 755. That's just long been known. People can tell you how many Babe Ruth hit. 714. Long been known. A lot of people can't sit here and tell you exactly how many Barry Bonds.
It's also what time the bus used to pick me up in 6th grade.
Okay. But
yeah, yes or no? I need an answer before we close
what
out.
What was your question? Does Miggy
does he hit 500 by the time we record again?
Yes. In fact, I think he hits it in this homestand against the Angels.
Okay.
He wants it. And he deserves to do it at home. Mm-hmm. So, and I want him to do it at home. It'd be better. So, but anyways, that is going to close it out for this week, guys. Andrew, thank you for joining me. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast always, and thank you to all the Detroit sports fans out there. I had fun with this one.
Oh yeah,
a lot of energy today.
It's been a while since we've been able to talk rivalry. Like,
have we ever been able to on this podcast?
Not Pistons wise, but in this podcast, no. On the live show, we've been able to talk rivalry, but not with the Pistons. We've been able to talk like Michigan State, stuff like that.
Okay. So, but anyways, thank you guys again. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Give us your thoughts on the documentary. Give us your thoughts on the Lions preseason games, Pistons Summer League. Let us know. Mm-hmm. But we will catch you next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Enjoy your week. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you guys later. Peace out.
Adios.